Final segment of the night, Brian, and this is a new segment for us. And we decided, since we kind of covered everything pretty well in the post-game show, we wanted to do something a little bit different tonight. And one of the things that the rewatching of the film allows us to really kind of hone in on is the line play. And specifically when we're watching offense, it's the offensive line play. And we're able to kind of pay a little bit more attention to what each guy is doing, how they're doing, their footwork, and all those things that are really difficult to see live when you're at a game, obviously. And then also even when you're watching the TV copy live.
And really study what we know they're playing line games, but what exactly were the line games they were playing? It's
all of it. Yeah, all that stuff that's happening in the trenches is really hard to watch and watch a game for what it is, right? And where the football's going and things of that nature. And so that's one of the things that we do. And so we decided that instead of kind of rehashing some of the things that we talked about on the post-game show, let's talk about the offensive line and really break down how the offensive line did. And this is a bit of a new look offensive line this game, with Billy Schrauth moving back into the starting lineup, but in a new position over at left guard. And what did that look like? And, how did the play calling of Mike Denbrock affect things for the offensive line? I think they definitely did. And, our thoughts. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk O-line here in the final segment of the show. So, Brian, I will kick it over to you, and we'll just get this party started and talking about the offensive line.
Well, it's first of all, Vince, I want to talk. Here's how I want to do it, if that's okay with you. And I want to get your thoughts on all these things as well. I want to kind of start off, just give my overall feel of the play of the line and the new look offensive line. Then I want to talk about what we saw in the run game, how they performed in the run game, and then we'll wrap up with the pass pro, because that's going to be a relatively quick section. But let me just say this first of all, Vince, and I might have said it yesterday in the show, but I definitely felt this way when I broke it down. This is the first time all season where I really watched the offensive line and felt like A&M, since the A&M game, I should say since the Purdue game, when Craig goes down and Schrauth goes down, right? Because I still feel like if those two don't get hurt, we're having a much different conversation about the offensive line. But since Billy Schrauth got hurt and Ashton Craig got hurt, this is the first time I've really felt like this offensive line can actually be pretty good. Like not a dominant 2020 O-line. We're not even, it's silly to compare them to 15 and 17, but it's not even like a 2020 offensive line. It reminds me more of like the 18 offensive line, of what it could be, where you're young, but you're talented, and you're going to make some youthful mistakes, but you're so talented at running back and other positions, you're just like, dude, just do your job. Remember that offensive line, Vince? You had Robert Haynes, he was a true sophomore. You had Tommy Kramer and Aaron Banks were redshirt sophomores. Liam Eichenberg were redshirt sophomores. And then, and I think it was Alex Bars got hurt early. He goes down, and eventually you're throwing in Aaron Banks into the starting lineup, who's a redshirt freshman. And it wasn't a dominant performance, but that team went undefeated because Harry Hiestand, had coached those guys up so well that they were able to kind of, that first year, they were better in the first year after Hiestand left, because 18 was the first year without Coach Hiestand. And they got regressively worse in 2019, despite having more experience, because they got further away from Coach Hiestand. And then, of course, Coach works with the 2020 offensive line because he was out of the NFL by then, and he was living in town and working with those guys and Chris Watt, that they were good in 2020 again as well. But, like, they had enough of that tutelage under him the year before that they were able to kind of go out there and just did their job. And they were young, they made youthful mistakes, but man, that when they were playing well, that offensive line was really good. This is the first time I've really felt like, okay, I'm seeing that a little bit from this line. And they weren't dominant on Saturday. They played well. They played good football on Saturday. They weren't dominant. But it was the first time I was like, they look like a unit for the first time all year. Now, again, things to clean up. A couple times Emil Wagner got to the second level and didn't really bring force. It's like, because I don't know if he was quite sure of what he was doing. Billy was rusty. There was a couple times, still too many times Pat Coogan doesn't move his feet. But I thought Pat overall just battled his butt off. I thought Rocco was super steady in this game, Vince, just individually. And I would say this was probably Anthony Knapp's best game at Notre Dame. And there was a couple mistakes. I mean, you're going to make mistakes, like not knowing how to handle the one twist, and then they let a guy go and things like that. But like a perfect example of what I mean by them playing as a unit is the 64-yard touchdown run by Jeremiah Love, because 2 guys blocked 3 dudes on that play. So they had 2 guys. They had a line game, and then they brought I think it was a safety fire, and they're doing a double team. And a linebacker comes and a safety comes, and they have that double team. And I think it was I'd have to go back. I don't know if it was inside zone or duo. I have to go back and look at the run, but it was one of the 2. And Rocco leaves the double team to go pick up the blitzer. Pat Coogan leaves the guy to go pick up the crashing linebacker. And you're just like, there's 3 guys, you got to block 2 of them. But before he leaves, Pat shoves the D tackle, takes on the linebacker, and because he shoved the tackle, that guy could not get back in on Jeremiah Love. And you're like, it was 2 guys blocked 3 guys on that play, and then it's all Jeremiah needed was that one crease, and he's gone. And there were so many times where I'm watching Billy Schrouth and Pat Coogan, or it's Billy Schrouth and Anthony Knapp, the play I talked about earlier, where Anthony's stepping down to protect B gap, but it's his primary responsibility, where with Billy, it was a secondary responsibility. So he's eyeing A gap, his primary responsibility, but he's got a firm hand in the B gap, and he got enough of that guy to allow Anthony to get over on that guy and make the block. It was great teamwork. And you just saw more of that in this game, Vince, and you've probably seen at any point in time this season in all phases of the game. They did a pretty good job against A&M in the run game, but this is the first time we've seen them do it in all phases. So just as a unit, you watch it, and then you just see the experience and talent difference with Billy Schrouth in the game compared to when he's not in the game. Yeah. That to me was why for the first time I'm like, okay. And I was, sometimes Joe Rudolph gets there the wrong way, but he got there. Just like last year when he was way too late putting Billy Schrouth in the starting lineup last year. And then this year, the biggest mistake he made was not putting Billy Schrouth next to Anthony Knapp to start the season.
Putting both those young guys next to each other.
Yeah. People say, well, he wanted to go with the younger guy. So here's something I learned right after the starters were announced. I talked to a source who's very close to the situation, and he said part of the problem with how he handled the line in fall camp is Sam Pendleton, when Sam moved to guard, he played left guard only. And every single day, he was rotating Coogan and Rocco between guard, both guard spots, and center for Coogan. So you wonder why Pat Coogan, or by Sam Pendleton, who's going to be a good football player at Notre Dame, he's a little in over his head. He's had a lot thrown at him. He's just swimming a little bit, but he's going to be a good player at Notre Dame. But he's just playing left guard every day. And one day Pat Coogan's playing center. One day Pat Coogan's playing left guard. The next day Pat Coogan's playing right guard. One day Rocco's playing left guard. The next day Rocco's playing right guard. And these guys are literally rotating every single day. And then you wonder why they didn't grade out with the consistency that the guy that was only playing left guard every single day did. And I think that was a mistake in preparation. And that resulted in the offensive line that you had. When in reality, if you wanted to start Sam Pendleton, you never should have moved him to left guard to begin with. You should have had him at right guard when you knew Jagasol was out. First week of camp, Jagasol goes down, and you're gonna give Anthony Knapp his shot. And from what I'm told by sources, Anthony, within a few days, it was pretty obvious. We didn't know it at the time, but this is what I've learned since. It was pretty obvious that Anthony was going to win that job. Like, he just was the most steady because Tosh is dealing with injuries, and Charles was out. The minute you realize Anthony was that guy, a week into fall camp, you should have moved Billy Schrouth back over to left guard where he's played before, and you should have let Rocco and Pendleton battle at right guard, because Pendleton had just moved from center. He could have easily moved over to right guard, and they didn't do that. So, but hey, here we are going into November. Notre Dame doesn't play a game until November, and you're where you should have been anyway. With the exception of Ashton Craig and Jagasol, 3 of your starting offensive line positions are now what they should have been day one, which is Rocco at right guard, Billy at left guard, and Amir at right tackle. gets us a lot closer to the line that we should have seen at the beginning. And then at center, you've got a kid who is not the most talented guy in the world, but at center, he battled his butt off and paddles his butt off and handles his job in Pat Coogan. He's okay there. And Anthony Knapp is coming along, and now you got a veteran next to him, Vince.
He'll come
now
along.
You feel like you're going to get whatever the best of Billy Schrauth as a true freshman is. I have much more confidence we're going to get that now. He's played better in recent games, but he still has a lot of issues. But part of it, and I think this is what we saw on Saturday, was he was the most nuanced of the knowing the offense of the two linemen that were starting on the left side compared to him and Sam. Well, now he's not anymore. He's got a veteran 6-game starter next to him who's a junior in college. And you're seeing, and I think you saw Anthony flourish because